So everyone, back with another video. This video we're gonna be reacting to Faze Clan before they were famous. And yeah, hope you guys like it. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment down below if you guys want me to react to. See how it's getting to it.
You guys, as you know, Faze Clan has continued to grow exponentially over the years.
Hello.
At that time, they have gained new members and lost older ones for one reason or another. One thing is clear about Faze: when you join, you essentially seal your fate to become famous. Faze Clan is a household name, and new members who are part of the now decade-old organization are considered internet celebrities. Members like Banks, Temper, Kay, Jarvis, Tico, Rain, and Adapt are among some of the Faze community's favorite YouTubers. You all know their names, but how well do you know their stories? Today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the lives of some of the most famous members of Faze Clan before they were famous. Let's start off by telling the story of Richard Benston, or as all of you know him, Faze Banks. Banks was born on October 18th, 1991 in Massachusetts, where he grew up with his family. As a kid, Banks loved to watch Rocko's Modern Life and dreamt of one day either working with animals or joining a career field associated with space exploration. Like most little boys his age, Banks had a loud personality and loved to be the center of attention, especially when it came to the girls in his classes. As a kid, Banks considered himself to be quite the ladies' man because of his kind demeanor. Some of Banks' first experiences with video games came from his love of playing NHL and Madden at first. Eventually, Banks got a hold of his little brother's Xbox, which is when he was first able to get familiar with Halo 3. When Banks first got into playing Call of Duty, he began working on his sniping skills, as other gamers had been doing as well. Banks joined his first gaming organization, Explicit, as a result of his sniping abilities, and subsequently opened his first YouTube channel that he deemed Banks Has Bank. Not long after entering the YouTube scene, Banks joined the Call of Duty Black Ops 2 team SOAR. At SOAR, Banks became a leader of the team, giving him a satisfying sense of responsibility over something he loved. However, while Banks was at SOAR, many of the team's members kept getting recruited by other rapidly growing organizations, Faze Clan specifically. Banks was at SOAR for a year and a half before, as fate had it, Faze Clan was looking for a new leadership position. Banks saw an offer he simply couldn't refuse and decided to join Faze. Banks and Faze Apex had become good friends as they were both in the gaming industry and were now in the same gaming organization. After a few months of deliberation, Banks decided to move in with Faze Temper, one of Faze Clan's owners. The two hit it off and discovered that they could combine their genius minds to create even more content for their YouTube channels since they lived together. In 2014, Banks decided to move into the new New York Faze house, and the rest is history. Faze Temper was also raised in Massachusetts like Banks, except he was not born there. Rather, Temper was born in a small town in Brazil called Pitangui, and later came to the United States when he was only 2 years old.
It's crazy how Faze Temper, he was born in Brazil. Like, he does not look or like sound like he was like born and raised in Brazil. He was born in Brazil, but he was raised in Massachusetts. So yeah, it's crazy to think about that. So yeah.
When Temper was 2, he had developed a medical condition that resulted in him having uncontrollable convulsions. Because of this condition, his mother felt it was best to bring him to the United States for medical treatment. After moving to Massachusetts, Temper was on medications for around 2 to 4 years. After he finished with his treatments, doctors told him that he would have to take a break from everything for a while, even school. Moving to the United States from Brazil was a massive culture shock for Temper, who was just a boy at the time. He had no friends, didn't speak the language, and felt rather alone. It was then that Temper started playing video games to fill up his free time. Temper later picked up skateboarding and ended up making friends with his neighbors down the street who skated with him at all hours of the day. Eventually, however, Temper's video games started taking over all of his...
If you go to Faze Clan's channel and you search up the story of Faze Temper or something like that, they'll tell you everything about this too, about how he was skateboarding how he found his friends just because skateboarding, they had an interest in skateboarding and all that stuff. So yeah, even if you guys want to learn even more about him, go to Faze Clan's video, just search up Faze Clan or the story of Faze Temper, and they'll tell you everything. So yeah.
Time, and he spent a lot less time skateboarding, a lot more time in front of his system. Temper joined Faze in July of 2010 and became obsessed with the notion that he could properly make money playing video games. His mother finally found herself backing his new passion when he started signing contracts to travel for gaming. As Temper grew more and more aware that gaming could be a career, his channels continued to grow, and well, you know what happened next. Unlike Banks and Temper, Faze K and Faze Jarvis didn't actually move to the United States until K joined Faze Clan. Instead, the two brothers grew up in Oxford, England with their single mother who owns a local salon. Both boys did alright in school, but craved so much more out of their life with whatever their studies could provide them with. From a young age, Jarvis had a passion for tennis, which he would do so with his aunt nearly every day, both before and after school. This love for tennis was slowly extinguished once he started following in his older brother's footsteps and got into video games. Kay had been studying game design at university, though he knew in his heart that he wanted to play video games rather than to create them. He wanted to be the gamer. Kay started playing Call of Duty in the earlier years of the game and became good enough to get attention from some of the biggest gaming organizations online at the time. This included the gaming group Optic, who eventually invited him to join their organization, and as a result, Kay's sniping skills. At the time, there was an unspoken rule that Optic and Faze couldn't poach each other's members because the two organizations were massive rivals. It wasn't until Optic decided to randomly drop all of their organization's sniping members that Kay started to realize that he had no idea which direction to move in next. Shortly after losing his spot at Optic, Kay reached out to his old friend Banks, who had recently moved to Faze. Kay did not outright ask Banks for a spot in Faze, but he nonetheless ended up getting an invitation to join not so long after the two spoke. Kay joined Faze and began making content outside of that which he created with his little brother. Kay spent more time in the United States with other members of Faze, and he would only occasionally come back to England to visit his family. When Fortnite Battle Royale was first released, Jarvis told Kay that there is no possible way that his older brother could be better than.
Even if you search up like the story of Faze K and Faze Jarvis, it'll tell you everything about this. If you guys want to know the story of like all the famous Faze members, yeah, search all of that up. So yeah, but they don't do it for like every Faze member though. So if you want like Faze meal and all of that, they don't have it.
Than him at the game that he was. When Kay saw how skilled Jarvis was at the game, he was amazed. Jarvis constantly received all of Kay's old gaming systems over the years and constantly demonstrated his ability to make himself better at any game he attempted to play. Just years after his brother joined, Jarvis was invited to join Faze Clan as well, as he had rightfully earned himself a spot in the organization. After that, his career took off right alongside his brother. In another part of Europe, in Switzerland, another future member of Faze Clan was born. As a member, Jacob Swarden, or as you know him, Tico, was not necessarily obsessed with video games, but he was absolutely in love with Lego. In fact, Tico didn't have his first experience with a computer until his dad bought a Windows 95 and allowed young Tico to sit on his lap and stare at it. As Tico got older, he found a new affinity of playing soccer. He absolutely loved to run the length of a soccer field and play amongst his friends. Tico received his first console, a PlayStation 1, when he was just a boy. He later went to upgrade his first Xbox and later an Xbox 360. It was the Xbox 360 that would come to change the way Tico saw video games. In fact, he began to love playing video games so much that he ended up quitting soccer altogether at the age of 16. Around that same time, Tico had started high school and found himself making an entirely new group of friends. These friends didn't play the video games that he did, rather they were all invested in Call of Duty. As a result, Tico downloaded Call of Duty and began playing it. It wasn't long before he was completely obsessed with the game. He had watched a variety of people on YouTube post insane sniping videos and decided to get into sniping as well. Eventually, Tico started recording his gameplay and uploading his own YouTube videos for fun. These videos soon caused his channel to gain subscribers and even the attention of Faze Temper, who later invited Tico to join Faze Clan in April of 2011. The rest is honestly history. Moving on to our next story is that of Norton Chat, who was born on May 29, 1996. You all know him now as Faze Rain, but before that he was just a simple kid from Toronto, Canada. As a kid, Rain loved playing video games and being the center of attention. In fact, Rain was known to have been a bit of a class clown at school, but he nonetheless maintained good grades in his classes. That is, until his parents began to argue more frequently throughout his childhood. His parents' incessant fighting caused Rain's overall grades to drop in school, and he had a hard time focusing on anything at home except for his parents' tumultuous relationship. It was at this point in his life that Rain began to use video games as a coping mechanism of sorts. Eventually, his parents could no longer maintain the relationship as it was incredibly unhealthy. One day, Rain's father simply got up and left without so much as even saying goodbye. Rain didn't mind his father's absence much, as his mother was loving and caring, and all he could have ever asked for in a parent. Eventually, she remarried and Rain was gifted with the best stepfather he could have ever imagined. Rain had a bumpy adolescence littered with depression and suicidal thoughts and actions. Eventually, Rain began to see a therapist who thoroughly helped him get back on his feet. One of the biggest things that his therapist taught him was to invest his time in the things he loves, specifically into his favorite hobbies. With this advice, Rain started to watch more and more YouTube videos from creators who played the video games that he had been interested in. Eventually, these videos resulted in Rain deciding to create and upload his own gaming content. When he started uploading videos of him hitting crazy trickshot snipes, his channel began to gain the attention of some major gaming organizations who were looking to recruit professional players for their competitive teams. Rain saw himself as a bit of a clan hopper at this point in his gaming career. That is, until he received an invitation from none other than the Faze clan itself. Rain knew the opportunities at Faze clan were too great to pass up. He joined Faze and never looked back. Finally, we have the story of one of Faze clan's legends, Faze Adapt. Adapt was born on June 5th, 1997 with the name Alexander Hamilton. Yep, Adapt's parents named him after one of the most famous founding fathers. They intended to name their other sons after historical figures as well, except they continued to have daughters instead. Instead of growing up with brothers, Adapt grew up with 4 sisters, all aptly named after beautiful cities. After his birth in Phoenix, his parents decided to remain in Arizona for a few years. Throughout his time in Arizona, Adapt developed a deep love for the game of basketball. In fact, he played basketball so frequently that his mother was often worried that he would melt in the dry Arizona heat. Seemingly at random, Adapt's family decided to pick up and move to Pennsylvania. This move was sudden and forced Adapt to leave behind the small social life that he had known. In fact, the move to the rather chilly Pennsylvania meant that Adapt could not really play basketball unless he went to an indoor rec center. Because he could no longer play basketball in his backyard, Adapt decided to pick up video games as a way to fill his free time. As a present, Adapt received his first PlayStation 3, with which he used to play gaming almost every day. Just months after his family had moved, Adapt's parents sat him down and admitted that moving to Pennsylvania was the worst decision they had ever made. They informed him that they would be moving back to Arizona. Adapt had been ecstatic to hear this news, as he had much preferred the climate in Arizona to that of Pennsylvania's. However, when the move actually occurred, Adapt found that he had an extremely difficult time making friends at his new school. In fact, more often than not, he was actually bullied by his peers. The silver lining to the move and the bullying was that Adapt was finally able to properly play basketball again. When he got into high school, Adapt was determined to try out for his school's team. He practiced day and night, but still seemed to come up short when it came to tryouts. Again, Adapt was incessantly bullied and resorted to playing video games in his free time. It was around the time that Adapt started playing Call of Duty. As he began to watch other YouTubers play his favorite video game, he decided he too could try trick shots and quickscopes. Eventually, he gained the attention of the gaming organization SOAR and ended up joining their team for a while. While at SOAR, Adapt met none other than Banks himself. The two became friends and stayed in contact even after Banks left for Faze. Not long after, Rain decided to join Faze clan as well. And, well, you know what happened next. Each of the members of Faze clan have their individual stories of exactly what led them to Faze. Each of the stories include events that end up changing the course of their lives forever. You know them, we all love them, and Faze would not be the same without them.
So that's gonna be the video right there. Hope you guys like it. Make sure to subscribe. That video coming down below. What is guys want to
Our new 13-year-old roommate, Faze High Sky, has just moved